Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Sabbath, and welcome to YouthConverse, where we discuss the matters which are at the heart of their youth as their journeys as Christians. First, of course, we'd like to thank Emmanuel SDA Church for their sponsorship and making all of this possible. I thank you for joining us for yet another exciting episode where we will be discussing competition. As you know, Satan is fighting and competing for our souls, and that's why the great controversy is the fight where we are fighting for our lives. We're going to discuss the importance of competition and the bad aspects and the good aspects of it. So please stay tuned as we're about to have an enriching discussion. Before we go any further, we're going to listen to our first song called Softly and Tenderly by Fountain View. We'll be right back. And the good aspects of it. So please stay tuned as we're about to have an enriching discussion. Before we go any further, we're going to listen to our first song called Softly and Tenderly by Fountain View. We'll be right back. And the good aspects of it. So please stay tuned as we're about to have an enriching discussion. Before we go any further, we're going to listen to our first song called Softly and Tenderly by Fountain View. We'll be right back. And the good aspects of it. So please stay tuned as we're about to have an enriching discussion. Before we go any further, we're going to listen.
He's waiting and watching for you and for me. Come home, come home. Ye who are weary, come home. Earnestly, tenderly, Jesus is calling, calling, oh sinner, come home. Think of the wonderful love He has promised for you and for me. Though we have sinned, He has mercy and pardon for you and for me. Come home, come home. Ye who are weary, come home. Earnestly, tenderly, Jesus is calling, calling for you and for me. Earnestly, tenderly, Jesus is calling, calling, oh sinner, come home.
Welcome back to our second segment of YouthConverse, where we are discussing competition. I'd first like to invite our guest, Pastor Hong, and our panelist, Josh, to come onto camera and they can introduce themselves. Pastor, you may start.
Hello, everybody. My name is Pastor Impyo Hong. I'm a pastor of Emmanuel Church. I mainly work with youth and young adults. Of course, with everything else, involved with a lot of IT stuff. I'm definitely happy to be here and be part of the conversation today.
Hello, everyone. My name is Josh. Most of you may know me from the Emmanuel SDA Church, youth there, and I'm here today to speak on competition. And thank you guys for having me.
Thank you so much to the both of you for that introduction. So we're just going to jump right into our questions. And my first question will be for you, Josh. And that is, what is the definition of competition? And, is competition natural? Is there any natural competition?
So, starting with the definition of competition, it's more like a rivalry between two or more parties, and they all strive for a common goal. But the thing is that goal can't be shared. It's where one's gains is another loss. Natural competition happens a lot in nature, where you have different organisms coexisting in the same environment, and they compete over shared resources, whether it be water, supplies, food, or even mates. Um, but yeah, that is competition as a definition.
Thank you, Josh, for that answer. And now my next question is for you, Pastor Hong, and that is, how is competition defined by some of our church members?
When I was in high school, they did not let me play soccer. I used to play a lot of soccer in Korea. And, of course, I came to the States to go to high school. And, you know, the whole aspect was that competition is bad and it's negative. It hurts. And so, I think in the church, there were among some people among us that really feel the negative side, and they look down upon a competition. um, so it's definitely there is some of that idea that is in there. So I actually start to play basketball because they allowed uh, to play basketball. So I became a baller because of that. But yes, it's there's definitely an idea that competition is very looked upon negatively in the church. But if you look at in the Bible, uh, there's a lot of conversation about race, running a race, right? And even I'll read from Hebrews. Listen to this, Hebrew chapter 12. It says, therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses. First of all, there's a crowd, there's people watching us, right? Let us throw off everything that hinders us, and the sin that so easily entangle us. Let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. So there are people watching us, and we're running a race. And so Bible does describe in a competition or a race, something that we are competing for, right? And I guess we'll talk further about what those competitions really mean and how we can, benefited by that. But yes.
Yes, thank you so much, Pastor, for that answer. We definitely are, in a race and a competition. So, Josh, my next question is for you. And, as we're in this race and competition is very natural. Is competition an important part of life?
I'm going to start by saying yes, it's a very important part of life. When overseen by adults or when it's organized in a way that is healthy, it can build a lot of core values for someone, whether it be self-esteem, it can teach valuable life skills, and it can positively shape your life, whether it be helping you get fit. Competition mostly exhibited in sports um, leads one to be more fit, faster, better, stronger. So you'll definitely see a lot of health benefits from that competition. Um, it also can result in some negative aspects where if you are on the losing side of the competition, it can lead to feeling a bit low or feeling very negatively about yourself. But most times, what seems to happen is that that is used as fuel to just be better, to be stronger for the next time when you have to compete. Um, but I would say it's a very important part of life, yes.
Thank you, Josh, for that answer. And now, Pastor Hong, this question is for you. So, you were saying, competition is a natural part of life. So, is competition actually good or is it bad? What would you say?
Competition itself, you know what? If, many things in life, it's it's not the thing that is bad, but it's the way we approach can be good or bad, and it's the attitude in which how you enter the competition or how you feel about the competition is where it can differ whether good or bad, because there is a good competition, but also there is a bad competition, right? So your attitude itself, if it's about learning, developing characters and getting yourself better, that's definitely going to be very healthy and good, and you will achieve a lot of things in life. But if you only think about winning, I gotta win. If I don't win, I'm just gonna, crash and burn and die. That mentality, it's not the competition issue. It's your attitude. It's your the way you value or approach issue, right? And so that if it is feeding into that, then yes, it'll turn in a very bad situation and result. And so, is competition good or bad? Just like anything that it's neutral, but the way our heart is where it could be good or it could be bad, right? And so that's where I stand on, good or bad. Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Pastor Ryan. I for sure agree. Sometimes competition can go too far, especially, in some sports. So, Josh, my next question is for you. As Pastor was saying, like at his school, they didn't have soccer because it was too competitive. So, Josh, I was just wondering, as Christians, how important is it to engage in competition?
Um, like I said before, it's very important to compete or be competitive, not only in life, but even as Christians. Depending on what we are competitive in, we can learn a lot about ourselves, what are our strengths, what are our weaknesses, what are we more prone to do, what we like, what we don't like. Um, Especially in children, it can help identify different things and cause them to form um, bridges between different ideas. Sportsmanship being one of the most important one, knowing not to show off too much, knowing when is a good time to compete, when is a good time to be a bit aggressive, when is a good time to just pull back and be more humble about how you're competing or who you're competing with. Even you can learn a lot about temptation while training for a sport or while getting ready for a race, where you kind of want to eat this food and you're craving this food, but it's not really going to help you in the long run. So as Christians, you can learn a lot of life lessons when competing, whether it be in sports or in life at work, trying to get to that next level, try to get a step up on the next ladder. And while it is healthy, we have to learn to regulate how we are competitive and know when is the right time to do so.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Josh. As someone who also plays sports, like competition, like it's helped me sometimes, especially with like other aspects in my life. My next question is for you, Pastor Hong, and I was just wondering, can anything be learned from competitions?
For sure. I think a lot of things can be learned from competition. In fact, there are, once children goes, there's a huge difference between kids who goes through competition situations versus who never been through a competition. Huge in, especially on a developing their character, being patient or being developing perseverance. And so it does deal with a lot of character building. And through the right type of character building, you may continue to have a good, positive, healthy competition, right? Even in the Bible, it says not only in Romans chapter 5, verse 3 and 4, it says, and not only that, but we also glory in tribulation, knowing that tribulation or difficult time, testing, produces perseverance, and perseverance, character, and character, hope. And so we see that there are different steps of developing characteristics in our life that is valuable, beneficial, even godly, that we can acquire by learning how to compete. And also we can learn a lot about relationships through competitions. One of the biggest thing is teamwork. I mean, I play basketball. It don't matter how good I am by myself. If my team, I don't care of my team, we will lose. Why? Because that's how teamworks work. And you start to see, we can achieve so much more when we work together, and you learn to humble yourself, even give up certain things so that, the team can work out better, right? Let go of my own selfish desires so that we can all improve together. So a lot of learning how the teamworks work, because that's how life works. A person quickly realize when you go out in the society, you don't live alone. You have to work with people, right? And also another thing that really is beneficial, for me especially, you cope with stress, right? I go play basketball, and all the stresses that I have is just, it's gone. Why? Because it's a fun, it's enjoying something that you can like really be satisfied, or even to build yourself. I mean, I gained a lot of weight right now. I'm hoping to lose and shave that off by playing some sports and to run around. I mean, when I go play basketball, I run for 3 hours. If you tell me to go jog for 3 hours, there's no way I'll be able to do that, right? And so what can I learn? I can learn, to persevere and to endure difficulties. I breathe heavy, but yet I know it will benefit me, right? And so you learn to understand the cause and the effect, loss and the gain, the personality, the character traits. There's so much to actually learn from. And also, not only that, the skill sets. I think, without competition, you don't really try your best to develop your skills, right? For example, somebody's learning an instrument. If they don't ever enter a competition situation, they will never really truly practice the full capacity of what they can play, whether it's a violin, whether it's piano. Through these situations, we really learn to step up the next level. We really refine our, skill set, right? And so, yeah, there's so much that we can learn from competition.
No, yeah, thank you, Pastor. I definitely agree. Like when you have the competition, you learn so much more. Even myself sometimes, like I'd be playing by myself, and then I'd play with someone else, and I'm already out of breath, even though like I've been training for those past couple of months. So we're gonna take a quick break, and we are going to listen to our second song called Desert Song by Hannah Abogado. Okay, and we'll be right back. Thank you.
This is my prayer in the desert, when all that's within me feels dry. This is my prayer in my hunger and need. My God is the God who provides. And this is my prayer in the fire, in weakness or trial and pain. There is a faith proof of more worth than gold, so refine me, Lord, through the flame. And I will bring praise, rejoice. No weapon formed against me shall remain. I will rejoice, I will declare, God is my victory and He is here. This is my prayer in the battle, when triumph is still on its way. I am a conqueror and co-heir with Christ, so firm on His promise I'll stand. And I will bring praise, I will bring praise. No weapon formed against me shall remain. I will rejoice, I will declare, God is my victory and He is here. I will bring praise, I will bring praise. No weapon formed against me shall remain. I will rejoice, I will declare, God is my victory and He is here. All of my life, in every season, You are still God. I have a reason to sing. I have a reason to worship. All of my life, in every season, You are still God. I have a reason to sing. I have a reason to worship. All of my life, in every season, You are still God. I have a reason to sing. I have a reason to worship. All of my life, in every season, You are still God. I have a reason to sing. I have a reason to worship. All of my life, in every season, You are still God. I have a reason to sing. I have a reason to worship. And I will bring praise, I will bring praise. No weapon formed against me shall remain. I will rejoice, I will declare, God is my victory and He is here. I will bring praise, I will bring praise. No weapon formed against me shall remain. I will rejoice, I will declare, God is my victory and He is here. And this is my prayer in the harvest, when favor and providence flow. I know I'm filled to be emptied again. The seed I've received I will sow.
Welcome back, everyone, to our third segment of YouthConverse. We're discussing competition today with Pastor Hong and Josh. As we're in our third segment, I'd like to invite anyone to put any questions in the chat, and we'll answer them shortly after. So I'm just going to dive right ahead into the questions. And this question is for you, Josh. So as I guess, you're younger, you were a student, you still are. How does competition help students and how is it beneficial?
So you're definitely right about that. I'm still a student of life. I have to compete even in the workplace. And I would say it helps students realize a lot about themselves, whether it be gaining experience or like being able to showcase and analyze the skills that they have. I used to be a very avid volleyball player, and I still am, still waiting for the gyms to open up. But playing volleyball helped me realize a lot about just being fit in general, whether it be getting to a certain position really fast or noticing certain things on the court. That really translated a lot in life when it came to everyday things like my reaction time to certain things, thinking how to go about certain decisions in certain ways, whether it be deciding to do something now or wait and do it later and see the outcome. So it definitely changes your way of thinking. But apart from that, you gain a lot of experience when you improve those skills through practice, going out every day, like Pastor said, and like playing for like 3 hours. And you don't realize it's 3 hours, but it's been that long because it feels fun. You're doing something fun, but you're also training your body at the same time and your mind. Um, like I said, it also gives you an opportunity to showcase your talent and skills, whether it be at like national competition on the national level where you have things like the Olympic Games, or be like just within your own city or hometown. Um, you also get confirmation and acknowledge that the hard work that you yourself put into trading like 6 hours a day, eating a certain diet, you get acknowledgement that what you did was not in vain. You not only are healthier and are more fit because you did it, but you also see people want to see you do more. They want to see you perform as best as you can because you're so amazing in whatever field that it is you're competing in. It also increases your network of friends. I remember back when I used to run track a lot, and when things open up and we're able to do the church track meet again, I'll definitely like to see a lot of you out there. But I didn't really know anyone, and then after I started running, and I started doing more and more, I started to hear certain names. You would hear certain names on the track field. Oh, this person showed up. This person showed up. Look at their time, and you would want to compare times. And your goal at that track meet was to be a name to be remembered. I think that's one of the best things as a student, whether going to school or a student of life. You want to be a name that people remember, that people will take on and carry on in your legacy. Um, but apart from that, when you compete on a national level, it also gives you chances to receive scholarships and educational opportunities where you can go to school to play that sport and develop that sport. And it really becomes a very good thing because it opens up so many opportunities for you that you couldn't fathom before even deciding to pursue whatever field or whatever sport that you're competing in. But yes, it's very beneficial for students and it does help them grow a lot, like Pastor said, in their mental and physical well-being.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much, Josh, for that answer. How, I especially liked how, you said it helped you meet new people and find new friends. Pastor, this question is for you. So is competition an integral part of life? And what are your spiritual thoughts on this?
Definitely, it's a very integral part of life. Tell you the truth, really, it's part of, it's in our, like, built in our DNA to compete. Our kind of system, society, natural life, natural law itself, it's really there. And it's not all, negative things. People come, when things are competing, they thrive together. And that's really the purpose, that they can thrive together. For me, coming to Emmanuel, coming to any new place, first thing I do is anybody play basketball, and I take them to the court. I don't know them when I started, but when I'm done with them, oh, we're bros, like, because we rub shoulders, we sweat, we, come on, in a lot of contact, and you know what? Suddenly we know each other very well, and it's a building relationship in a special way, and so it is powerful, and it is an important part of life. Now, on a spiritual note, I think it's really important for us to understand that, kind of like Maddie mentioned it in the beginning, we are in this whole competition called great controversy, right? And we cannot, we call it fight, we call it really Satan and Jesus is competing against to get our heart, right? And so we are actually the subject of this competition. And at the same time, we ourselves are competing in our mind. Who am I going to worship? Who am I going to follow? Right? And that's really important aspects that we need to understand to compete, because if we don't know how to compete, we will always lose to our natural inclinations, which is to sin. Why? Because it's comfortable, it's easier. It's hard to fight against my own natural instincts. I mean, I want to eat. I love eating. I need to stop, right? Otherwise, I'm just gonna be not healthy, right? And so all these part of has a spiritual implication, that I need to learn how to do, do self-control, perseverance, character building, hoping, loving, faith building. It's all part of it. Actually, let me just read you from First Corinthians chapter 9, verse 24. It says, "Do you not know that those who run in a race all run, but one receive the prize?" I mean, that's right. Like, that's how this worldly race is, right? Everybody's chasing for that one prize. Run in such a way that you may obtain it. Bible is telling us that we need to run to obtain that. And everyone who competes for the prize is temperate in all things. Now they do it to obtain a perishable crown, but we for an imperishable crown. See, this is where our competition really is. We're not competing for the perishable crown, or even, Joshua was talking about building a name. Yes, I understand that's important, but at the end of the day, in the spiritually speaking, it's not the name, it's not the legacy, but it is the imperishable crown that we are competing to achieve. Therefore, it says, verse 26, I run thus, not with uncertainty, thus I fight, not as who beats the air, but I discipline my body and bring it into subjection, lest when I have preached to others, I myself should become disqualified. And so it's very clear that we are running, we are fighting. Why? Because we want to be on the side with Jesus. And this is a strong implication in our spiritual life. People who don't know how to compete, they will never really try to compete. You will see many people in life who says, oh, I don't know what I'm doing, I have no idea, I don't really have an opinion in life, I don't really want to choose, I don't really want to fight, I don't want to go up against something. That's this kind of attitude actually at the end of the day will drag the spirituality down, right? Because now you have to fight your own, urges, desires, and greed, and selfishness and pride, but you don't know how to fight, and therefore you give up, you give in. And so, in a spiritual perspective, really, it is important for us to learn how to fight for the right things, how to fight and to compete for the right reason, especially to worship God and to have that, value and the goal to be with Jesus. I think that is a very, very powerful and strong desire that we want to, we want to get there, right? I press towards the mark. It's a high calling of Jesus Christ. Again, it's the same idea that we are really trying to refine our skills, refine our characters. Really, that's what it is. Refining our characters so that we can be with Jesus one day. So yes, I think that's a spiritual implication.
No, yeah, thank you, Pastor. That was very insightful, especially, like we have to fight every day, especially, when you have, people from the world, they don't believe the same thing as you. So it's definitely important to fight, for your beliefs. Josh, the question is for you. What can competition teach you?
Um, So I believe we covered a lot of that beforehand, but I'll just go over like the what some of the main points. One of the most important ones, and I think Pastor covered this, was improving teamwork and collaboration. Learning to work with other people and use other people where you yourself are weak, and that comes across a lot in the spiritual aspects of things where you may not be familiar to how to deal with a certain type of temptation, or you may not know what choice will lead to where, and you have someone who's been at that pathway before and had to make a decision. And when you go to them for advice, they can sort of not necessarily tell you where to go, but they can lead you in a direction that can allow you to make the right choice when you're stuck in between um, two different outcomes. So that's one of the most important things. Another one is in enhancing social and emotional learning, where you not only know how to interact with people socially and pick up on certain cues, but also you'll be able to be more, or you have more empathy towards people going through certain things and know sort of more how to help them in a sense. You may see someone going through something. Um, well, I definitely do. I see a lot of people going through things, and it's not really very loud. They're not really outspoken about what they're going through, as most people would like to keep to themselves. But one thing I've learned from competition is that when you're down, you normally want to keep that to yourself. But it's always nice to have someone reassure you that, hey, it's okay. You can always come back from this. You can learn from this, and you can grow. Um, and that's one of the most important things where you use pain or loss as a teacher to help you um, understand where your faults is and where you need to improve. Another one is in increasing motivation, where Pastor mentioned this. A lot of people find themselves unmotivated, or I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that, I don't like conflict. I personally do not like conflict. I don't like to be in the forefront of it. But when introduced to conflict, I have learned to take the approach of being the calm one, the one to try and de-escalate the situation as much as I can. And that's one of the things you not really learn by going out and being in competition, but just you pick it up as you go. As you grow older, you just learn that certain things are not given to you. They are there for you to just see, and you sort of have to develop your own understanding of that. Um, Another one, enhancing beneficial peer comparisons, where um, you compare strengths. People like to be better than you at this and better at you at that. But when done in a healthy manner, you can learn, like I said before, where someone else is good, where you fall short, and how you can help each other. And I think those are the most important things that competition can teach you. On the spiritual aspect of things, I think I covered a bit of that before, but it just overall helps you realize your faults, what you can do better as a person, and what how others can help you, especially how God can help you with your life, because He's just an ask away most times.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I really agree with what you said. Thank you, Josh. I'd also like to invite and encourage people to put their questions in the chat if they have any questions for Josh or Pastor Hong. We're just going to continue with their questions. So, Pastor Hong, this question is for you. As we were talking about the good things and the natural things about competition, what are some negative effects of competition?
Well, definitely, there are negative effects, especially when your heart, your attitude is at a wrong place, have a wrong motivations. I've seen many times who get really angry, and that really teaches us where we are. It shows us kind of nature of where we are, right? But it does, it brings sometimes it brings out the worst of us, and that's definitely a negative aspects that or result with a bad attitude going into it. Also, when people lose and they don't achieve goals, they fall into depression. They get low self-esteem. They say, "Oh, I see. I told you. I know I couldn't do this. I cannot. I will never make it in anything." Yes, so these depressions do come about, as a negative impact. And I've dealt with many of them, myself or with other people as well. But as Josh mentioned a little earlier, there's a huge emotional learning because you learn to pick up from that. You learn to say, you know what, okay, let me try. Why? there we always We've always experienced, everybody experienced some type of failure in their life. And then when we see somebody else who's going through that, we can say, hey, you know what, it's okay. I know you could do it better. Let me help you. Let's work together. And then you can pick them up. And then you know what, they will learn how to cope with the loss. They will learn how to cope with losing a competition, or even being humiliated, or their pride is hurt. Now they can actually learn to do it right, do it with a right type of purpose and the motivations, and they can be even better afterwards, right? So most of the negative aspects of competition really comes from your heart, the selfish, either selfishness, pride, greed. These are the aspects where really gets us down into deep hole as a negatives of competitions. But I really do believe that these negatives can be compensated or overcome, because that's really part of life. We all go through this, a loss, a hurt in our pride, but yet we learn to um, be a better person afterwards, right? And so, yes, I would say those are some of the common downsides, but also there are a really good solution for these negatives as well. So, really, yeah, that's what it is.
No, yeah, for sure. I definitely agree, especially like in sports games, like you really see how some people can be, whether they lose or win. You get to find out, people's true character. So, Josh, this question is for you. So, as we were talking a lot about competition in sports and the good and the bad, now we can talk about social media. So, Josh, how is competition portrayed in social media?
Um, this one's a tough one for me because competition in social media, it can go either way. Specifically speaking, on last year when Toronto won the NBA Cup or the NBA championships, really, it it was really really exciting. It was really, it was the pinnacle. It brought so many different people together, even from the states, where they were all rooting for us as a team over the other American team. And it really can bring people together, but it also can lead to disagreements and my team's better than your team. It can be very divisive in a sense. Right now, I think soccer is the big thing right now. I personally don't watch soccer. I don't really watch sports. I like to participate in them. But yeah, it's bringing a lot of people together, whether they lose or win. Um, and it really does become a competition outside of the sport itself of who are the better fans, who can encourage their team to be the best and beat the other team. Um, One of the things I feel that is important when it comes to competition and social media is how the players learn to lose graciously, where they take that loss as a learning experience, as a I'm going to make it my goal to do better next time. I'm going to make it my goal to not let my fans down next time. And when it comes to the spiritual aspect of that, like Pastor said, God is fighting against Satan for our lives, and it's up to us to choose who we decide to serve. And in social media, it's very portrayed that where Satan has a hold of social media and what is shown, what is given out to us as youth. But it's up to us to filter that out and see that, above all else, we can still use that platform to show that God is going to win. He is going to be there for us, and He um, will always be there for us when we need Him. I think that covers it for social media.
No, yeah, for sure, you're right. Especially, with like the filtering out the things, like, especially how, social media, like you're getting bombarded with so many stuff, and like you only see the good stuff, and it's just like it's kind of, you can feel down on yourself because you're not as good as them, and you always have to do better to be like the other people who are, doing well in life on social media. So you're definitely right. Thank you for that answer, Josh. And now, Pastor, this question is for you. So, what is like some alternative words for competition, or what are some better ways, better concepts, of competitions?
Definitely, if the word competition itself is a little negative, maybe some among some of us, um, I think I do like it better when the prize is not only for you, but as a team or as a group, right? That always promotes sharing, teamwork, collaboration, and it's not a self glory. It's something that we achieve together, right? And so, a game, a teamwork game, or a teamwork match, or we say even events in whatever. I don't know, there are really numerous ideas, whether it's a race, idea of a race, or idea of game, idea of um, a a tournament, or even trial. These are different aspects of really the idea of competition. But more than the most important aspects that I will you know substitute, if I were to, then instead of a single person being rewarded, that it will be a group effort, something that a group can achieve together. And so it promotes a lot healthy idea about what it means to truly compete in a healthy way.
Thank you, Pastor, for that answer. So I just have a question in the chat. I'm just gonna sit, and I also invite, if anyone has any more questions, put it in the chat. This question says, if competition has so many positives, why is it that so many older Adventists advise against competition, and doesn't Ellen White speak against competition? I guess, Pastor, you can answer this, or even Josh, if you want to go ahead too, you're more than welcome.
So yeah, let me just chime in on this. Ellen G. White does speak, and in fact, she this is what she says, a sentence here. It says, "What force of power is put into your games of football and your other inventions after the ways of the Gentiles?" So this statement itself is, uh, it sounds a little bit damning, but let me just kind of share a perspective on what it is a dangerous part. I do understand that, especially when it comes to game, like sports, sports can become god for some people, and that it's not a competition problem, it's our who am I worshiping problem. And that's what Ellen Joy really is pointing out, right? These games are, yes, invention of the world. Yeah, because are we gonna, did God invent football? No, I mean, God gave us ideas and thought to exercise and to do all of it. I mean, actually, God told us to exercise. It's a really important thing. But it's the problem when we take things that are there to make huge God out of our lives, and some people really mess up their lives because of their heavy involvement in these things is really the problem, the core of the problem. Because, like I said, my high school did not let us play soccer because apparently from this very statement, but they allowed basketball, they allowed volleyball, they allowed frisbees, capture the flags. We've done many other sports, but not the soccer or football. And so again, sometimes we take a literal face value of certain things without really understanding what means behind what it's saying. Because Ellen G. White does talk a lot about exercise. It's a lot, talks about healthy competitions. But yes, this side of Ellen G. White's counsel, I do agree. It's important for us to recognize sports isn't. It should never be our guide. It should never be our focus of a goal or motivations in our life, right? Because it should be solely God Himself, right? Um, but you know what? I use sports as such an evangelism tool. It's really how, like, for example, money, right? Bible says the love of money is root of all evil. Bible didn't say the money is the root of all evil. Money is a neutral thing. Actually, it's a need in our life, but love of the money is the root of all evil. It's the same thing. It's a love of the sports, love of the competition, love of the winning, the love of all these, of feeding into your ego and pride is going to be the most dangerous toxic thing in your life, right? So yes, that's something Ellen G. White warns against, and that's something even Bible warns against. And we should never engage in such a mind and attitude and heart and motivation to that. And so, yeah, I think that's something that sometimes we do, take things out of context into a just simple statement and says, look, this is what it says. But, really need to understand what it means. If you read front and back of all that statement, it's very clear. Ellen G. White is talking about the love that we have, the desire, the sole focus of life, the drive that we have for sports itself, not the competition of it.
For sure. Wow, thank you, Pastor, for that answer. I definitely agree. People do take sports, a little bit, too far. Yeah. I think there's another question. I'm not sure. Okay, so Sister Marjorie said, I agree with all being said. However, do we have competition in the church among members? Members, pastors, youth, or young adults?
Well, hold on. For sure. Let me reiterate this. Competition, I think we talked about this. It's a natural part of people's life, right? People compete. Now, it's important that we teach what kind of attitude, mentality, mindset, values are we really trying to promote? Because that's where our heart is the problem, not the competition itself, right? If we were to say, oh, look, I want to look better than them, I want to, see, I gave more offering. It's the same competition that we've seen in the Bible, right? Was the competition bad? No, it's the rich man who's trying to put more money and look down upon the woman who put 2 cents in there. That's a competition, but competition itself isn't the problem. It's the man's heart was the problem, right? And so again, I think we really need to don't blame the competition because that's part of human kind DNA. But how are we looking at? How are we approaching? Is it our pride? Is it our greed? Is it our selfishness? I think that's really more of an important question that we need to look at rather than trying to eradicate competition because like that's not that's like breathing.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Thank you. Oh yeah, Josh, go ahead.
I was just gonna chime in and say for both questions, it's like Pastor said, it's really a matter of perspective. How do you look at the competition? What is your goal for competing? As long as you have that set up in the right way, Like we've mentioned before, it has to be organized in a way for that competition to be healthy, or because it's a natural part of life. As long as it's healthy, as long as it's a way that it allows for both parties to grow and not for one party to look down upon the other, then it becomes more progressive, where we can actually learn from that competition and be better from it.
Thank you, Josh, and both, Pastor Hong too. So I guess we're going to wrap up. I just want to ask if you guys have like any last things you'd like to say. Floor is yours. Or
I'm pretty good.
You're good. Pastor Hong, do you have any last words, or are you good?
Well, for my last thoughts, I love what Paul says to Timothy. Is in First Timothy, it says, "Fight the good fight of faith, to which you are also called. You are called to fight, and have confessed the good confession in the presence of many witnesses." Again, there are a crowd, right? You're fighting the fight, and you know what? In Paul, before he died, he tells Timothy in Second Timothy, he says, "I have fought a good fight of faith." Right? So there is a good example of life of what it means to properly, rightly compete among people with witnesses. Because it is, at the end of the day, Jesus is watching us compete in life, and we will have to give an answer to Jesus, right? Have I fought for you? Have I compete to be on your side, right? And so fight the good fight of faith, Emmanuel, and continue to fight until Jesus comes. And then at that time, whether we pass away before Jesus comes or not, that we can say at the end of the day that I have fought the good fight of faith.
Thank you, Pastor Hong. Actually, we have one last question in the chat. It's from Sister Marjorie again, but if you could just quickly go over you or Josh, but she said, how does one, sorry, I'm gonna read it. How does one benefit from competition in academics achievements?
Just to briefly touch on that, you learn more. When you compete especially in academics for, let's say as a math lead or spelling, you pick up more knowledge. You learn how to learn, in a sense, which is a very hard thing to do, especially as a student, because learning how to learn and learning how to acquire information and use it, not only for that event but for life, is a very important part. And that skill in itself is priceless. So it helps you in the long run as well as in the short run. Even if you don't come out as the number one spot, you still pick up information that's very good for you to use later on in life.
Oh yeah, for sure, I agree. Competition really, especially in schools, even myself, when I was in school, everyone, you joined all the clubs so that your resume looked better. You did lots of volunteering. You really tried for that high average so you can get different awards in school. So it really does benefit in the academic way. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today for our discussion. I'd like to thank our past guest, Pastor Hong, and our panelist, Josh. And I hope you've all enjoyed our conversation. And we hope to see you next week for our special with not Jason Fraser, Jewel Fraser and Jason Malungo, my bad. And we're just going to pray, and then we're going to listen to our last song, Great Are You, Lord, by Holly Halliwell. So I'm just going to pray. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you for bringing us on the show today so that we were able to discuss competition. Lord, I pray that you help us fight the good fight, against Satan, Lord, and that we always stand by your side, God. And I pray that you help us, learn from healthy competition and know when we've taken it too far, and with competitions that we know when it's bad for us. Thank you for everything you've done and blessing us with this beautiful Sabbath day. In your name I pray, amen.
You give life, you are the dark.